Hey everyone, welcome back to Reroll, our 5 to 10 minute commentary on a game we just played. We just got finished playing Dragon Boat, as you know, presented by our lovely not Vanna White but Sarah. Anyways, so normally doing this show, Sarah, she's a guest of honor. This is our first time re-rolling. We answered two questions. One, would you play it again? And two, would you add it to your collection? So I'll go first. Okay. The game was kickstarted. I don't know how many more games Maple Games has made. If it's like their first game for a company.
They have a few.
Maple Games?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've seen them around.
Okay, so they make more than this game. This one was
with the designer.
Yeah, I'm not either. However, so wasn't horrible. I didn't mind it too much. It does suffer from some production qualities, and I don't know if that's just because it's their first print run or whatever. Now, when Sarah was taking it apart, apparently she had some issues with some of the pieces coming undone. I don't know how I feel about it, other than, yeah, Mike will probably go into more of his pet peeves with it, which is probably the same ones I had. But I'm probably just gonna leave it at I would play it again just to figure out if there's more meat to it. Because at the end of the day, it didn't feel like there was a lot going on with it, and I probably wouldn't add it to my collection though. Mike, what are your thoughts on the game?
So during the video, if you watch it, you may notice I held up a nice abbreviated rule book because we all love, and it's in large print, so those of us that are half blind and read it pretty well. And it does have in setup the listed numbers that match the map setup. However, if they keep changing terminology between cards, such as bonus cards and ability cards, and then at the end they're both the same, there's a definite problem. And there's also certain punctuation errors and grammatical errors and plural versus singular in the rule book. And then they make it sort of not clear as to whether we should do a particular refill step or not and how to do it.
That's my pet peeve. I can care less. I mean, the translation problems
and such and so forth. So yeah, it's being simple is keep it simple, stupid. The KISS principle is a great thing, but keeping it too simple is not a great thing.
My problem is there wasn't very clear definitions of what we're supposed to do.
Most everybody that plays a game that has a card pile that you draw from and you place some face up next to it immediately indicates whether you should immediately refill those spots or whether you should wait till the end of the turn. It's a little added little sentence of instruction that there's plenty of room in this rule book to do that with, but then you have to go through the entire section of that rule before you figure out, okay, so they mean to refill that deck at the end of the market phase.
You literally have to get to the end of the market phase to say, now refill this, versus going...
Well, it never says anything about the deck specifically.
Yeah.
It just says refill the market.
And the market is one of the spots where the deck is on.
It's not when you draw the card, immediately replace another card. Because what could happen very easily is that two players ahead of time take the two face-up cards, and now there's no face-up cards for the next player. So he has to take one off the top of the deck.
And it's not just that one.
And is that the way it's intended to be played, or are they supposed to be refilled when drawn so that the next person has a choice of two face-up cards? Don't know.
And if that was the only one, I wouldn't complain about it. But then you got, were these resource tiles, these bonus tiles supposed to be upside or downside? There was a whole bunch of that in the rule book that you're like, are we doing this right?
And the other thing about wording within a rule and not being real clear is in the payment phase, they go down to taking the mountain path or boarding a boat instruction in black header, like it's divided from the payment phase, but it is under the payment phase and it happens before the explore phase. We had a question off of one statement. It says, anytime during a player's turn. It starts the sentence off with that. So what do they mean by that?
Yep. Because I have a question that I was like, can I spend the resources I just got
can I board a boat on the next phase or the other phase or this phase, or or is part of that restricted to the payment phase? And if so, you've already finished your payment phase, but you end up with something else, and then you don't have another turn in the payment phase, and you're stuck with not boarding a boat.
Yeah. I could have gotten one more meeple on a boat, basically, but yeah.
So I have to say that the gameplay wasn't so bad. I mean, I figured it out and figured out which strategy I was going to take, unlike the strategy that was approached by the two of you. I was going to get everybody out somewhere, and I got them all out.
Yeah.
Because I took a money card that gave me extra money, which allowed me to buy extra resources
to get them on boats.
All out. Yeah. I don't think I would have been able to do that necessarily if I hadn't got the extra money card and traveled over it many times.
Money was a consideration for me, a big problem.
So there's different strategies and different approaches you can take, and there is some randomization due to the bonus or ability cards, however you want to call them. That you draw, and the tiles you can go up on the mountain to change circumstances and things like that. So it's mildly interesting, but I would not. I mean,
would you play it again?
I would not seek to play it again, but I would if it's offered.
Okay.
I definitely would not.
Sarah.
No, I will never play it again. Which in turn means I will not add it to my very small collection. Because I'm picky. I think my problem with the rulebook is very much like they made it a lot of assumptions on what people would assume would happen. They're just like, okay, so here you go, blah, blah, blah. But for people who play board games, we've seen a lot of different rules, a lot of different circumstances, and that can lead to a lot of different things in the game. So when they're just like, so for the whole marketplace thing, like for us who play a lot of board games, we'll be like, do we fill it? Do we not fill it? Where people who see the refill marketplace phase might see it as, oh, that also includes, so then we refill it. But then there's more questions involved that people who don't play a lot of board games might not ask those questions.
It was really hard to get into the mindset of the designer. Did you want to restrict this resource or not? Right?
Yeah, so I think if they expanded the rulebook to be not, and dummy proof isn't even a good word for it, because it's like I think we know too much about board games and we probably play too much, where it's like we have all these different circumstances and we're trying to figure out how they want us to play the game. So I think if they just added more to that, it would have been a more enjoyable game. I would have been like, you'd be able to strategize more, because most of the way through I was just like, is this gonna go like this? Are we gonna have to do it like this? And I think the quality of like just the pieces would have been nicer to be higher.
There was some.
I mean, I'm the one who put together the boat, so that was my only pet peeve. I mean, and it's nice that they gave you dividers. I mean, the art is cute. It follows the theme of everything. Everything kind of looked nice. The board seemed nice. But I think its biggest downfall is the rulebook. Like, it isn't so much like the play itself. It's just how they're telling you to play the game is the biggest problem I have with this game.
So
no one to know. You had a closing?
Well, I was going to say this follows the yin-yang of Kickstarter type games. Ones that people have learned, larger producers or more often producers have learned to get pre-production copies in the hands of playtesting groups. They'll get a dozen shipped air freight to them. They'll playtest the game component production quality or not, just to get that solved before the final release and printing.
Yeah.
Smaller companies may not want to take a chunk out of their money to do that.
It feels like the playtesting did it was in their internal group, and they all knew what they were talking about and what they intended, and that never made it into the
It'd be easy enough to find out, but we didn't look that up at this point. But that seems to be the problem with a lot of the Kickstarter board games, is some people take the extra effort. Please airship me before you start producing my entire game. I want a pre-production copy to vet everything.
Yeah, and even if they told somebody, going back to my pet peeve, the whole rulebook, even if they told someone like, "Hey, read this rulebook," doesn't make sense if that person, if it wasn't play tested like you're saying with somebody who's never seen it, never played it, and just been like,
right,
figure it out, and they see those people play it, because like you can say, "Hey, go play test this, give me feedback," but if people were just like, "Oh yeah, here, blah blah blah," but if they're not like seeing the struggle people have reading the rules and whatever, or people aren't reporting those problems as much, that's also an
And
issue.
honestly, so there's a bit of a tug and pull there too, because okay, apart from pre-production copies are great, but then you're testing the components and making sure they're what you want. You can also do that with just cardboard cutouts, pieces of paper.
Yeah.
The catch there you run into is then they are worried about sometimes about like, oh, my design got out and somebody copied it, right? So you get, I get it, but those are otherwise you run the risk of making a game that may not be hitting all the marks you want to hit. So
Yeah.
yeah. All right, well, that was about it. If you guys want to check it out for yourselves, it is available in our rental library, so you can check it out whenever you want. I know ours wasn't the most stellar. I'll appreciate it. I think at the end, have a look at it. Yeah. I do like the complexity level for beginners. I don't think it's that bad if you have somebody explaining it to you and stuff.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. We'll talk to you guys in a week.